I'm Marty Gold Cummings, and this is Marty Talks. We're chatting with your favorite stars, queens, and politicians to get all the tea on all things political.
Welcome to another episode of Marty Talks. I am so excited because today we have one of my dearest friends and my neighbor, Shakina. Hey, girl.
Hey, girl. So happy to be with you.
I am so excited to have you on the show. It has been a very hectic and busy couple of months. This is actually our first recording that we've done since, I think, April or May. All the episodes that have recently come out were pre-recorded. So we are getting this one out in just a couple of days. But yeah, it's been a crazy month. And I as chaotic as the world has been, I've been super grateful to grow in our friendship and work together doing activism work and getting our uptown community together. So
Absolutely.
Everybody needs to follow Shakina and learn about the incredible work they're doing and how they're using their platform. But I want to we gotta dive in and just start from the very. Let's start at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like we use like the word like iconic too much in our culture, but I do feel like you are an iconic trailblazer. You've done
that's so cool.
So much. It's true. Like, this is the truth. You've done so much incredible work. And I want to start with talking about Manifest Pussy.
Yeah.
And how that show really kind of brought trans issues into the New York theater scene in a way that it hadn't been before. Can you like explain to our audience a little bit about that show?
Yeah. So Manifest Pussy is my solo rock odyssey. And it's written by myself with a bunch of music by my friends and colleagues, Joe Iconis, Joel Wagner, Shayna Taub, Lauren Marcus, Sam Salmond, Nico Benson, Teresa Lotz, Michael R. Jackson. I think that's everybody. I might be missing someone. I'm trying to run through it really quick. Julianne Wick Davis. So a lot of incredible, like up and coming Broadway composers worked with me on the creation of this show, and it had several iterations. The first version of the show was just called One Woman Show, and that was sort of the story of my life leading up to gender transition, and I used that to crowdfund my gender confirmation surgery, and that was sort of that got like a lot of media attention, just because it was sort of like a moment in which crowdfunding gender confirmation hadn't really become like a mainstream thing yet. And there also weren't any out trans people in the Broadway community. And so I was trying to like take this sort of like downtown queer trans cabaret aesthetic and make it as mainstream as possible. And I saw it as a sort of edutainment project. Like, I was letting people in on my process. I was raising money for my confirmation, and I was also building my theater company at the time. And so I thought, like, let me preemptively answer every question people have around gender transition in a show and just make it sort of like fun and informative and also just soul-bearing. And then when I got back from Thailand, I had a year-long recovery. And I was like, I'm going to create another show to get me through this recovery. And I created the show Post-Op. That's where most of the original music was written. And then when I had the two shows, I realized, like, oh, this is all one show. This is Manifest Pussy, the story of my life coming into myself as like a trans woman of faith and what it means to explore like sexuality, spirituality, and gender in a sort of pilgrimage to get a pussy. And and so the show got...
Yes.
Yeah. The show got, played around at Joe's Pub at 54 Below, Musical Theater Factory. And then I took it on tour to North Carolina when they had launched their first anti-trans bathroom bill. And then more recently, I did it out in LA this last year and again in New York. And it's sort of my, it's my life story in song. It's like Hedwig, but real. That's what I tell people. And and it really did sort of drive a wedge into the New York musical theater scene, to say that like trans people are here telling our own stories and our narratives matter in the canon, not just in like downtown stages, but that we should be, centered in storytelling in the American musical theater. And so that was sort of my introduction to the community as a performer as well, because before then I was only a director. So yeah, it was a big step out for me.
That's so major, like taking control of your career and your narrative. And there's a couple things I want to like break down within that. There's so many like conversations we can have just from the manifestation of manifest pussy. First, I love that you talk about your faith. I think that's really important because a lot of times, you know, so I've had my whole journey with faith and God and religion and what do I believe and what do I not believe and what is right, what is wrong for me as a person, as a non-binary person who's coming to terms with my own gender and figuring that out. You know, I think there's no right or wrong time to come out. I'm like in my 30s now and have just come out as non-binary because I'm like, oh, that's that missing puzzle piece. That's always like that missing connector or whatever. But I like really struggled with, you know, I went to religious school. And so it was like, you know, fuck God. No, I love God. No, fuck God. No, I love God. God loves me. God doesn't love me. Does God love me? You know, like all these like questions. And the last like maybe year, I started going back to church because a friend invited me and they were like super inclusive, like Pride the House Down boots, supporting Black Lives Matter, like really out there doing the work. And I was like, oh, this is like what church is supposed to be.
Right.
So what is it like? Are you from North Carolina or no, you just took the show there?
No, I just took the show there because I felt like, well, one, my partner is from there. Daniel is from North Carolina.
We love it. This is a Daniel Stan account. Okay. We love Daniel in this house.
Yeah. Daniel is a great
guy.
Man. Yeah. He's from there. So I felt like a little bit of a connection just because like someone I love so much is from this, you know, state. But I had never been before, and it was the first anti-trans bathroom bill. That's why I felt like it was important to show up. And also because there were so many boycotts happening in the state, including a letter that had circulated amongst a bunch of Broadway producers and rights holders about withholding touring productions from going to North Carolina as a form of protest. And you know, Bruce Springsteen had like a concert plan that he pulled out. But in the conversation around stopping touring shows from going there, I knew that like West Side Story and Wicked were both on the touring calendar. And I thought like, these are shows that fundamentally teach people about difference and about living together. And to be removing them as in a time when they're like needed the most felt like a disservice to me and kind of a slap in the face to queer people who just like needed some support. And I remember being in California when we won the right to marry and then we lost it again with Proposition 9. And it was this crazy time because like Obama won and we had like a Black president and then we also lost the right to marry. And it was like, how do you celebrate victories and also fight against injustice at the same time? And I would have loved if in that moment some like radical queer trans trailblazer blew into California with a solo show just to like inspire us, you know? And so I felt like that was my calling for North Carolina, just to show up and be a cheerleader for people on the front lines. And I've always said that when the revolution comes, I want to be on the front lines entertaining the troops. Like that's where I fit in the fight. And so that's what I did to come down there. And then the God angle, I mean, Marty, that's so huge for me because I just feel like queer people are so often shunned from communities of faith and made to feel like they're not worthy of God's love or not worthy to have a relationship with God. And so another one of my callings is just to be a sort of pastor for queer folk, to remind them that they are allowed and invited to have a one-on-one relationship with their higher power. And that connection with the sacred and the divine is actually, in my opinion, essential to unleashing the full creative and erotic power of queer sexuality. Because, you know, I used to always say, like, I could never fuck someone who didn't believe in God because I didn't want, like, if fundamentally you think you're the end all and be all of the universe, then I just feel like, you know, then how can you connect with the cosmic power of my pussy? You know, because I'm connected to all living things through the regenerative force of my orgasms. And if you're going to make me come, I want to know that you are in touch with the sacred power of that experience.
The sacred power of my pussy. You better fucking work. I love that. I think it's like, for me, it's like, conscious contact with God, you know, tapping in that conscious contact. And what does that say? It's kind of cliche, but that's saying the acronym ego is edging God out. So if you don't have room for God, and God doesn't have to be like Jesus or Yahweh or Allah or anything like that. It can be, I literally tell people some days my God, even though I go to like a Christian church, some days my God is like a roller skating disco diva.
That's right.
And some days it is Jesus. And some days it's literally the like flower that's on the tree outside of my window.
That's right.
It really is because, and this is something that I try to remind people who struggle with faith is I believe we all, no matter what you worship, first of all, religion is man-made. Faith is spiritual. That is different.
For sure.
And how we're all worshiping the same higher power. We just call them different things and worship in different ways. Right. So when we're like attacking people's faith or religions, like that's fucked.
Right. I'm definitely an all roads lead to one destination kind of spiritual person. So yeah, I believe in that. I mean, I have my own sort of postmodern globalized ways of practicing faith that integrates a lot of spiritual traditions.
Yeah, very same. And I think as a queer person, it's been such a journey getting to that place where I can say like, yeah, I believe in God. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm cool with that. And some days I believe in God more than others.
Right.
And some days I'm like, you know what, God, you're a fucking dick.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Totally.
And I think like when people say like, I think people say like, oh my God, you can't call God like a dick. And I'm like, yeah, I can because God loves me and we have a relationship. And I just like I have arguments with my spouse or my friends or my family, like God's part of that.
Yeah. God is there for the argument, you know, like historically throughout time, people have argued back at God and complained to God. And, you know, one of the things I love actually about that faith struggle is that one of the most important prayers you can pray is to ask for more faith, you know, and without fail, that will fill you up. Because if you're struggling with your relationship to God or a higher power, and you say, you know, out loud to the universe, like, I don't know who or what you are, but I want to be more connected to you, and I want to rely more on you, and I want to feel in relationship with you, it will happen. You know, it will.
It will happen. I totally agree with that. I want to talk, okay, so with the show centering transness and the beauty of transness in a theatrical setting, like you said, you did this kind of before this was really talked about, you know? And
yeah, I mean, I'm still part of a legacy. That's one thing I want to, like, you know, I will happily wear the crown and banner of a pioneer or iconic, or like, sure, thank you. I've worked hard and I'll claim it. But I am part of a long tradition of solo trans performers who have been, you know, pushing the boundary to make space for us, you know, long before I was performing at Joe's Pub. I mean, you know, Kate Bornstein, who's like one of my idols. My God. You know, I saw her perform 20 years ago. So
I was getting my eyebrows done once, and I came out of the little room. My eyebrows were puffy and red and swollen from the wax. And who do I see getting a pedicure right there? Only person in the shop. It was Kate, and I was like, do I go up and talk to her? And I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. She's getting a pedicure. She can't go anywhere.
Yeah, right.
Like, I think it's like I think it's very rude to like approach like celebrities or people when they're doing like their downtime stuff. But I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna say thank you and then let her be. So as I was leaving and like paying, I was like, hey, I just want to introduce myself and I just want to thank you for everything you do. And she's like, oh my God, what is your name? Tell me all about you. And we started talking for like 15 minutes. She followed me on Twitter like by the time I left the store. And she was so cool and so chill. I do not recommend going up to celebrities. I'll let people like enjoy their life and like be.
For sure.
But it was like one of those but it was also like one of those moments where I was like, okay, she's by herself. I really just need to tell her thank you.
Yeah.
And just the coolest, most chill, down to earth human. And same, Justin Bond is like somebody who I kind of idolize.
Exactly.
And my early drag career was really, I tried to model after that Kiki from Kiki and Herb
Sure.
characterization that Justin did. And yeah, but I love it now. Like, you know, I remember when I was in school, you know, I was very flamboyant and figuring out who I was. And I struggled with, like, there was many times in my life where I was like, struggling. Oh, can you hear me? Hello?
Do you see me?
I think we're back. I see you.
Okay, great.
You look gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. A little technical difficulty here on Marti Talks. Thank you for tuning in. And now we're going to continue the conversation.
Yes.
I just say, like, you know, there is, like, I love Justin Bond's journey. And I love, like, when I was in school, when I was like 17, 18, just in New York, I had teachers say to me, like, you're never going to work. You're too gay. You're too flamboyant. You're too this. There was no characters for people like me.
Yeah.
But anyway, so, like, you know, there was like teachers telling me, like, oh, you should just quit.
Yeah.
And then one teacher was like, you're just going to be a drag queen anyway. And now I'm like so proud to be a drag queen, but also like that when I was that age, I was really struggling with like gender because it wasn't language that we had 15 years ago.
Right.
Really. And I was figuring out, well, am I trans or who am I?
Right.
And now in my 30s, I can say, oh, I don't identify as male or female. I'm non-binary. And so it's so beautiful having artists to look up to on their journeys, like you, like Kate, like Justin. And now on Broadway, you know, we have Peppermint and Alexander Billings and all these fierce, fierce actors in leading roles on Broadway.
Yeah.
It's so amazing.
Yeah. I feel like partly responsible for that, I will say. Like, I will own that as, like, even though I haven't, like, made my Broadway debut yet, I know the fact that we've had, like, 7 trans people on Broadway in the last 2 years before everything shut down. Like, you're welcome, you know? Like, I'm glad that the work is working.
You're doing it. Before we continue, I want to take a quick break for a message from our sponsors.
Yes, please.
Okay, we are back with Shakina. We are talking about life. We are talking about things. Thank you to our sponsors. Bam, 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 bam. So we were just talking about the role that you have played in opening space for trans and queer artists in the theater. You are also creating space on television. This has been like such an awesome couple of years for trans actors on TV. You're on Difficult People with Billy Eichner, who I love.
He's great.
He's very good friends with a very good friend of mine. And so I know him like on the periphery, and we've had dinner a couple times together, always in P-Town. And he's so chill and quiet.
Yeah, you wouldn't assume that from like his persona on television. But yeah, but actually the whole company of that show were just some of the best actors and funniest people and greatest humans I've ever met. You know, Gabby Sidibe, Derek Baskin, Cola Scola, Andrea Martin, and of course the show creator, Julie Klausner. I mean, everyone is just so amazing on Difficult People. And it's still on Hulu, so you can watch it and give me that residual check. You know what I mean? Go ahead. Yes. You got 3 seasons. I'm in season 2 and 3, so just jump in there if you want. You know, it's fine.
Sign on. And then you famously stepped into Transparent for the finale. And Judith Light is like, she is a light. Her name is very fitting.
Yes.
She's full tilt boogie. I love her. Every time I've met her, I'm just like, can I go home with you and like just hang out?
I know. Yeah. She's like a beacon for sure.
What was it like? Because I know there was a lot of like media around Transparent and the positivity of the show and how there was, you know, so much trans visibility on set, on screen and off screen. Our Lady J, who I love so much, Trace Lysette, Alexander Billings, who we talked about before. And then, you know, all that kind of stuff with Jeffrey Tambor happened. And so what was it like kind of coming into that later in the process of that show?
Well, it was so hard because the entire cast and production team had suffered the greatest blow and heartbreak of having the show canceled early. And so, you know, they sort of had a choice of like just going out without a fight or trying to do this finale on their own terms. And I came in to help them heal, you know, ultimately. Yes, to create a movie musical, but more so to like lay the past to rest. The movie itself is functioning on a lot of levels, because you see the Pfefferman family laying Maura to rest, but it's also the entire cast and creative team laying the show to rest, and making peace with the past. And it was especially complicated because trans people, I think, had a love-hate relationship with the show. I'm not going to speak for everybody. I'll just speak for myself, but I loved the visibility. I loved the storytelling. I thought it was a very imaginative and creative show, but I always sort of felt like I was like watching a man in drag play the lead trans protagonist. And, as a trans woman, like, my greatest fear is that people look at me and think that I'm a man in drag, And so I always kind of felt a little injured by that. Even in the watching of the show. I mean, I would binge the show every season, but always with like a bitter taste in my mouth. And so to suddenly be tasked with the job of coming in to fill the shoes, spiritually anyway, symbolically, of that matriarch, was a huge order, to step into. But I think fundamentally people are averse to like delving into the messiness of conflict resolution. And, I love Trace Lysette more than anything. And I think that she is brilliant and bold and courageous, and I will always have her back. And, the strength it took her to stand up for herself, even if, it was ultimately those allegations that brought the show down, like, that to me matters more, because she is my trans sister and I'm going to stand, with her.
She's incredible.
She's incredible. And and she's also just like a solidly good human. And those are very rare in Hollywood, I'll say.
Yeah. She's also such a great actress. And I want people to give her more credit for her acting and more work, because she's so good.
Yeah.
Like the scenes in I can't remember which season it was, but they're in like that skate park or whatever.
Oh, the water park. Yeah, that's so yeah.
Oh my God. Like,
I'm not your fantasy.
Fucking brilliant.
She yelled and cried the lines that every trans woman wants to say to cis men, and she did it, and she knocked it out of the park. But anyway, yeah, I think that largely, unfortunately, I think the film was kind of ignored because it was easier to brush the show under the rug after the scandal than to sort of revisit its merits. And I hope that time will reveal the transparent musicale finale, or musicale finale, or whatever, the transparent finale movie musical, as a sort of cultural touchstone and really a landmark cult classic. I hope. I think it's definitely good enough to stand the test of time. And I'm really proud of the work we did. I'm also, really proud that I stepped into that project as an actress and, ultimately worked my way into the writer's room and eventually to be a producer on it as well. So, I was all over that movie to the best of my ability, trying to, defend the place of trans women in that show.
We love producer the house down.
Why not? Why not?
Everybody go watch it. And I also, like, there's a lot of talk right now. The Emmy nominations have come out. Pose has such incredible actresses on that program.
That's right.
And people are talking about, super joyful, obviously, that, Laverne got nominated, and I think who else got nominated?
Well, Deja Smith got nominated for doing the makeup.
And we love Deja.
Deja is
incredible.
Brilliant artist and activist, a Black trans woman who does a ton of work in the community. Yeah, and Laverne, I think this is like her third nomination, I think, for Orange is the New Black. And then
the cast of Pose hadn't gotten
nothing.
They haven't gotten nominations.
Billy Porter got a second nomination, which is like, and I love Billy Porter, and he should be getting his due. But that show is for and about Black trans women, and the fact that MJ Rodriguez did not get an Emmy nomination is a scandal. And
MJ is such a force. MJ is such a force.
A force of good. I mean, literally, like she and Judith Light, like, will go to the same heaven. You know what I mean? Like they are on the same train of goodness.
The thing with MJ, I think a lot of times fame can, I think, change people. And MJ is like the opposite of that. Like she is the most grounded, kind-hearted human. Like I remember she used to do I had a Sunday night show, drag show, and she would always guest. And then the last time she guested for me, she said, "Hey, I have to leave for a little bit because I'm doing this project, but I'll let you know when I'm back." She was gonna go film fucking Pose.
Amazing.
And then she gets back and she's like, "Hey, I'm like back if you need so." And I'm like, okay. But she's like always been so amazing. And I think like she embodies kindness and goodness. Her portrayal of Audrey in Little Shop with George Salazar.
Unreal. I'm so glad you got to see that.
Oh, so good.
So good.
She's so good. So yeah, like
I also just want to give a shout out to Rain Valdez, who's a trans woman, an Asian American trans woman who she created the web series Razor Tongue, which is Emmy nominated, and she's Emmy nominated as an actress, I think, in the short, but she's a producer, writer, and star, and a trans woman, like a Filipino woman. She worked on Transparent as well. She's brilliant. So we do have some trans representation at the Emmys, but just not nearly enough.
So each year, you know, the goal is representation matters. Like representation on screen, off screen, in all sides of the industry. Representation matters.
And nominations matter. And here's why. Because you know how people are. They don't have a lot of like imagination and foresight. And so when they're looking to cast projects or hire people, they're like, who's doing what now? And nominations are what get you validation in the industry and get people excited about hiring you. And so we need more trans people to get nominated for Emmys, not just win them. We need to win them. But for Tony Awards, for Emmys, for the Oscars, whatever, like these high caliber nominations have a huge impact in the hireability of that artist for potential projects in the future that have, really broad platforms. So
and then it opens the doors for other artists like them as well.
That's right.
I also think we need to get rid of the male-female category. As a non-binary person, I would like to find
I
new
even
ways
thought
of that.
I thought because Alexandra Billings and I were both up for the same category for the Transparent. We were both up for Best Supporting Actress in a TV movie or special event. Neither of us secured the nomination, but for a brief moment, I was like, what if I just went in for Best Supporting Actor so that both Alex and I could get in? Because I don't give a shit. Like actor, actress. I mean, I prefer actress. It's affirming, but we're doing the job. We're doing the same job. And, anyway, it's fine. I agree with you. I think it's dated. The one thing that I think is risky is that in eliminating gender distinction in awards, I would be afraid that cis men would dominate by default again. And I would be I would be so angry about that if it was like 2 cis men nominated for Best Supporting Actor this season. You know what I mean? Like, so ensuring representation.
We'd have to find a way.
Another way. Yeah.
Another way. Yeah. There's room for growth.
People can figure it. We figured out more complicated things.
Yeah, we can figure it out. I want to backtrack a little bit to earlier. You were talking about when you were working on Manifest Pussy with Joe Iconis, who I adore, and Shayna Taub. Shayna Taub and I got arrested on the same night during the Black Lives Matter protest.
What a crazy
She was
night
arrested
that was.
she was
on
arrested
her own porch, on her own stoop. Yeah.
On her porch, yeah. And then I was arrested at much different circumstance.
Yes.
Yeah,
but front lines or sidelines, nobody's safe. That's the answer.
That's right. And I want to say, like, I'm so incredibly honored to know you and be your friend, because you and our friend Jamie Sapiro and Queen Jean and Deja, who we were just talking about, are really out there doing the goddamn thing. On the front lines, organizing events and rallies and supporting rallies and taking the time to carve out space for voices that need to be heard. And today we're going to be at a rally together. It's Marsha P. Johnson's birthday. We're marching for Marsha P. Johnson,
75th birthday. That's right.
And today we also, and also today, the news came out about what happened in Wisconsin, I think it was, where the guy was shot 7 times in his...
7 times in the back.
Milwaukee, yeah. Yeah. So, just because it's not in the the headlines like it was a couple months ago, this is still a very real thing happening. Like, we need to defund the police. We need to abolish ICE. We need to really hold police accountable. And we need to have reparations. We need to have restorative justice.
Correct.
And I just think it's so incredible how you are on the front lines and really, it's been very helpful kind of following your lead on, okay, how can I show up as an ally of Black Lives Matter and take the time to listen, hand over the microphone, and just and march and use my privilege to do what I can. But yeah, I love Queen Jean. I love Jamie Zapira. Everybody listening, please go follow them. They're doing incredible work. And Deja, Warriors in the Garden. Yeah, what has this been like the past couple of months? Like, what has that experience been like?
Well, coming out of quarantine and into protest was kind of righteous because we had all been pent up and there was so much insecurity and anxiety around what was going on in the world. And I think to see this massive outpouring of resistance and solidarity in a time of, economic uncertainty and really like cultural upheaval was really hopeful, and also it felt apocalyptic with like the curfews and the fireworks and just like everything going on here that kind of made summer 2020, an unreal sort of nightmare. But the energy that you felt when you would go to these marches or these rallies and be, masked up in these crowds with people handing out sanitizer and water bottles, it was just like all in for racial justice, and in a way it couldn't have happened any other way because people weren't working and people had nowhere else to go and nothing was open. So it's like if you wanted to get out of your house, you could just go to Stonewall or go to Washington Square Park and like there would be a protest. I remember one of the marches, we were going down to Washington Square Park and we looked over like an avenue across from us and there was a whole other march going down the
protests started running into each other, which I loved.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Joining up.
Yeah. And then like the march for Black Trans Liberation in Brooklyn, that was like the sea of people in white that was longer. I mean, we were at one time like at a hill, and if you looked down in either direction before you and behind you, you could not see the front or end of this march. It was just so big, and it was a silent march, and it just carried so much power. So, the challenge. It was
the largest gathering for trans rights in history, I believe.
I have no doubt. I have no doubt. And I think the challenge is, how do we keep that momentum for the next 70 days? How do we, if people aren't stepping out every day to protest, what are we doing to keep the flame alive? How are we using our platforms on social media, our conversations with friends and family, your, contact with elected officials? What are you doing individually to make sure we don't lose sight of what's important as we get closer to the election?
We're going to talk a little bit about the election in just a minute, but first, a word from our sponsors. We're back. Thank you so much. All right, I want to dive
and just
into
a time check, Marty.
Left.
I probably only have like 10 minutes. Is that okay? Like max.
Same.
Oh,
I gotta jump on a call for my campaign. So.
Okay, I have a new wig fitting for my new show. So.
Hey, come through wig fitting. Wait, okay, really quick. You're filming stuff for NBC now, right?
Yeah. So, this is like the newest and biggest thing. I am on this new NBC show called Connecting that comes out in September. It's the first NBC sitcom to be made during the COVID era. It's all shooting from our homes. The series regulars all were sent camera equipment. We're actually sent camera equipment like every day. And Daniel's here like helping me set up shots. And it's a full-fledged NBC sitcom that takes place in the coronavirus era with everything that we've been talking about being part of the subject matter. But with, all the sort of like frosted bubblegum accessibility that you love from a network primetime sitcom.
NBC, like the most famous sitcom network. This is major.
Like the sitcom network. And yeah, I think that my character is like the first trans series regular on a sitcom, which is really huge. And we all knew
that this fucking work.
Thank you. We all knew that this would happen soon. It was like high time. I'm really honored to have the role. She's a super fun character, and the ensemble is great. And I think it is positioned to be very important. The show is going to start in September and run up to the election with 8 episodes in this first kind of short season. And we are talking about all of it.
Yes.
It's all on the table. So it's really exciting.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you, and I can't wait to watch it. And speaking of the election, like I said, I want to jump into this really quick.
Yeah.
I'm like super liberal socialist, the house down, but I also know the importance of like, we got to get out there and vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And I want to touch on this because there's been some discussion around Kamala's record as a prosecutor and an attorney general and things. I met her last year and had a conversation about pronouns and gender. And to me, I feel we need to allow people room to listen, learn, and grow.
Yeah.
And when I talked to her, she seemed like she was like, yeah, there are some things that like acknowledgement of needing to right wrongs from the past. And I believe that like with progressive voices at the table, we can achieve that. So I just wanted to hear like your kind of take on all of this.
Well, I think there's no question that Biden and Harris know they need to court the progressive vote because there's a lot of disdain and apathy for the traditional Democratic Party on the side of progressives. I can't wait to get my Democratic Socialist card, on November 5th. Like, give me the election, get Joe Biden in office, and then fuck the Democrats. Honestly, like, I'm okay with that, but I want to get Trump out of office. And when I hear people talk about the lesser of two evils, I really want to say, are you sure you mean that? Like, can you truly compare Trump and Pence with what a Biden-Harris presidency might be? And in terms of like neoliberal politics and America's place in the world, disturbing the peaceful evolution of other countries' democracies. I mean, there are a lot of problems that we have to face as a nation internally and in our standing around the world. But we can face those problems better with Biden and Harris than we would ever manage to do with Trump Pence.
Yeah.
And also, like you were saying, to your point, who on the ticket has a demonstrated record of being able to receive feedback? Certainly not Donald Trump. You know what I mean? But I think that Biden and Harris know that we're going to be right there holding them accountable every step of the way. So, and it was the same with Obama.
We're going to be holding them accountable, yeah.
Yeah. When I remember like Jesse Jackson saying, I'm Obama's number one supporter up to the day of the election. And then after the election, I'm his biggest critic. And that's how I feel. I'm all in. And then as soon as they're in, yeah, hold them accountable. Ask for what you need. They still have to represent the voice of the people.
And learn and grow. Like, I think, I'm so, yeah, we have to allow people room to grow, hold them accountable, get them to grow. But I think Trump and Pence people are dying,
Yeah.
People are dying. COVID, shootings, police brutality, kids in cages, the list goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah.
Detention centers, but Biden and Kamala, are they perfect? Nope.
No.
Have they done shitty things in the past? Yep. But do I think that they're going to have a cabinet and advisors that are like Sanders, AOC, Warren, Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Pressley, like people that they're going to listen to put progressive things in? Do I think we can achieve Medicare for all if we keep pushing? Yes.
I mean, do they believe in science and facts and truth?
Yeah.
So that matters.
Let's vote for them, hold them accountable, get shit done, and change our country for the better, because this shit is not working.
Yeah, not working at all.
But you know what is working? You on NBC.
Oh shit! So
much.
Oh yeah, I am. It's crazy. But to that end, and that's why it feels so important, because like nothing new is being made on television right now. I mean, a few things, Love in the Time of Corona and our show. But I think what's so great about Connecting is that we are having conversations in the form of a sitcom about difficult subjects that American families and friend groups around the country are having, with a diversity of opinions that all point toward a need for change. And sometimes you just need to see that stuff on TV to know that it's normal, to know that like, oh, you can call out your friend about racist behavior. And we're going to show you how to do that right here on this sitcom,
Yeah.
We're going to talk about why trans lives matters, like right here on this sitcom, and so that's cool.
Well, I'm so happy for you, and I love you, and I'll see you in a couple of hours in Washington Square Park
and we'll raise hell like we always do.
Yep, honor the life of Marsha P. Johnson and continue the fight for Black Lives Matter and trans lives and trans Black lives. So thank you so much. I love you.
I love you too.
And is Daniel going to be there? Will I see Daniel?
I think I'm going to drag him with me. Yeah.
Yeah, Daniel, get the fuck down to Washington Square. I want to see you. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Marti Talks, presented by Purse First Productions, Mitch Farino and Bob the Drag Queen. Follow Shakina on all social media platforms. What's the tweets and the Insta?
Shakines, Shakeenz.
And you can follow me at Marti, Marti Cummings. Thank you all. Have a beautiful and blessed day. And get your absentee ballots and fucking vote.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Marti Talks. This podcast is presented by The Only Productions, Mitch Farino, and Bob the Drag Queen. Editing is also done by Mitch Farino and Bob the Drag Queen. Check out other podcasts, videos, and live events at theonlyproductions.com. Make sure you're registered to vote, tell your friends and family to register to vote, and get to the polls. Our democracy and our lives are at stake. Thanks again. You can find me on all social media at Marti G. Cummings. Until next time, spread love and don't be a dick.